Hello, hello, and welcome to the Hacktice Club. This is the first Hacktice Club session, and I'm really excited to be bringing this to all my wonderful fellow entrepreneurs and people who have a real growth mindset about them. Now, I want to welcome you in this community, and I want to tell you the reason that I'm starting it. The reason that I'm starting it is that over the last few years, I've identified that the world is a changing. I'm no shit, Sherlock. The world is a changing, and what's happening is we're finding that learning new things is getting a little bit more difficult because we tend to not have the time. Things are moving so fast that learning and keeping up with technology we're finding it really, really difficult. So what we're trying to do is plug these gaps with hacks. So a hack is something that brings something simple that brings immediate relief and solves a problem. The only trouble with hacks is they're not very future proof. They don't really, it's a one and done thing. And yes, it solves a problem now, but it doesn't necessarily solve the same problem later on. And sometimes we just have to relearn the hacks as we go along or look for different hacks because the hacks are not necessarily that great anymore. And then we've got practices. So, once upon a time, we used to be able to slow things down and practice things and be patient. And, the way the world was allowed us to do that. But that's kind of like gone by the by. We talk about habits, but we find it really difficult to put habits into it because change is actually quite difficult. So we've had this thing of we created hacks to make things easy for now, but hard is and it's hard later. We've had practices where it's been hard to start off with because you've never quite seen the effects of it immediately, but as we get on, it gets easier. So that's a practice. So what I've done is try to make it easy now and easy for the future and look for things that are hacks now that give you immediate solutions, that give you immediate relief. But also, when you do it on a regular basis, because they're so simple and they're so small and the actions are so small, if you do it on a regular basis, you learn a new skill and a new habit because you've been practicing it. So you take a hack and then you do it again and again and again and again. You turn it into a habit and it absolutely magnifies all the great things in your life. It's the way that we're going with the way that technology is taking us in this world today. So that's what a Hacktice is. And I've got a whole heap of them. And I want to make it fun as well. I want us to be motivated because motivation comes into this as well. Sometimes practice is difficult because the motivation isn't there. And hacks give you that motivation because they're fun and they're different and they helped with variety and help us keep interested because our attention is taken away by so many different things. So what's going to capture your attention? What's going to keep you motivated? And what are you going to create sustainable habits out of? Hacktices, this is where it's at. So this is session number 1. I'm bringing it to you for free. There's going to be a membership later on for founder members up until February. Excuse me. It's going to be £10 per month for as long as you're in the Hacktice Club. But I'll tell you more about that later. Okay. Let me get share my lovely slides. Share. Let's share this. Let's get this going. Here we go. This is the first one, and it's going to be a life audit. And what we're going to be doing is maximizing your comfort zone. So, what's this going to help you achieve? What's this going to help you with in your life? It's going to help you to achieve goals a lot quicker and easier. It's going to help you with things like decision making. So if you struggle with decision making in your business, you're not quite sure where to spend your money, you're not quite sure where to spend your time. Sometimes it's also confusing. Sometimes it's so overwhelming. It'll help you with the overwhelm as well. And when you get overwhelmed, you tend to get a little bit procrastinating. You procrastinate in lots of different ways. Maybe your house is spotlessly clean because you spend a lot of time cleaning instead of doing the things that are quite difficult in your business and in your world. And it'll help you with things like time management. So it's about energy management as well, physical energy management as well. How do you spend your physical energy, your efforts, your focus? And ultimately, what happens is if you can get this right, if you can create a real balance, if you can balance what you spend your time, your effort, and your money on, you can actually save money, you can save time, and you can save energy. And one of the ways that we miss a trick is because we don't maximize our comfort zones. We've got big goals. So I want to ask you, right, who has big business goals for 2025? Think of all the things that you said. I'm absolutely positive that you've actually done some goal setting already this year. I mean, as I'm doing this, it's the 12th of January and we've had 12 days. I'm sure you've been to umpteen workshops, set your goals. You've got a bit of a path, you've got a bit of a plan. But what are those audacious goals? Have you got any of the really big, hairy goals? And I want you to give it on a scale of 1 to 10 how big these goals are. How big do they feel to you? Now, I want you to start thinking, do you have a team behind you? Do you have people that can help you? Not necessarily people that you pay to work for you, or maybe they do, but do you have any coaches? Do you have support teams? Do you have people that you can call on? Do you have team members? How much of a support do you actually have? Because we spend a lot of time on our own in entrepreneurships. We're solopreneurs and we sit here in front of our computers, typing away, making things happen. And we forget to kind of connect sometimes. And I want you to think about your energy, how you feel in your body, in your mind, the mental energy, the emotional energy that you have, and the physical energy that you have right now, and for the future, what you're doing about it. How big is your energy for 2025? You might have a lot of enthusiasm at the moment. You might not. You might just be gently unfurling into the year. But can you imagine how much energy it's going to take to actually meet your business goals? Do you have that capacity? And if the things don't match up, if the business goals for 2025 and the energy don't at least match, on the scale, and you've got some support for the times when it doesn't match, then it's going to be really difficult to get to your goals, especially if you're pushing and pushing and hustling and pushing yourself outside that comfort zone. So, who's done this? Who's done this? Got to 31st of December 2024. So it wasn't that long ago, a couple of weeks ago. And you do that thing where you scroll through all your pictures and you think, oh, I did this. Oh, I forgot about this. Oh, my goodness, how have I done this year? Maybe it's been a great year for you. Maybe it was a not so great year. If it's a not so great year, the tendency is to say, well, fresh page, fresh start. Next year is going to be better. What can I do better? If it's been a great year, you can take that and use it to motivate yourself to do even bigger and better things, challenge yourself, and maybe reflect on what you want the following year. So you go from 31st of December straight into January the 1st, and all of a sudden, New Year's resolutions, business resolutions, big, hairy goals. Scary, hairy, scary goals. But we miss the little bit in between on the strike of midnight. Are we actually sitting down and figuring out what we have, what we've got to hand, how we start, when we start, what do we need to start? How do we build that motivation? How do we build that traction? How do we build that momentum that goes towards our big hairy goal? And this is what we're going to be doing today in our life audit. So if you are a perfectionist, then, and you want to get to your goals, this is probably for you. Because quite often with perfectionism, what happens is we put lots of energy into it at the start and we keep going and we keep going because things are not just quite right and we want to just push it that little bit further, push it that little bit further, and all of a sudden we get burnout, and then it takes a very long time to kind of get back to that same energy again. And it's very easily done. There's just that little bit further. We push ourselves beyond that comfort zone. It's very stressful for your body. We don't want to do that. We want to maximize our comfort zone now. We want to see what we've already got. Let's see what's at our disposal. Okay, so does anybody know what these people have in common? We've got Stephen Bartlett, Willy Wonka, Sarah Blakely, Ingvar Kamprad. I don't know if I'm saying that right. He's a Swedish fella. So Stephen Bartlett, we all know, is the mover and shaker in the podcasting world, Diary of a CEO. And he's been going at it for a number of years, still pretty young, small start, getting to really great heights within the field that he wants to. We'll come to Willy Wonka in a minute. Sarah Blakely is the lady who set up Spanx, and she set it up with $5,000. And in 2021, she sold her share, also sold her company for 1.2 billion. And it took her a long time to get there, but she had a lot of creativity. She had a lot of determination and resilience that she used, that she called upon when she didn't have lots of things like fashion experience or connections. She called upon the things that she had to actually get to where she wanted to go. Ingvar Kamprad, he is the founder of IKEA, and in 1923, when business was a completely different landscape, he started really small. Even at the age of 5, he sold, what did he sell? Buttons or pens or something like that. And then when he was 17, he actually started a business selling pens and picture frames. And we all know that IKEA still sell pens and picture frames. And then he developed things, he scaled things up. He started small and scaled up smart. And all these people, oh, we've got Willy Wonka. So now I put Willy Wonka in there. He's a bit of a curveball because he's a fictional character. He's not a big, massive entrepreneur who is at the top of their field and absolutely smashing it in the success game. Willy Wonka is, when I watched Wonka, the film, it was just over a year ago now, it was out in the cinemas. Oh my God, came away with such a feeling of inspiration, because Willy Wonka basically is a fairy tale story of what we as entrepreneurs go through. So, he had the fire, he had the backstabbing, he had the police onto him, he had the dream, he had the having nothing, just nothing but his creativity and the love of his mother with him to be able to build things from scratch. And then obviously we know the story that he had big massive chocolate factory and Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and things like that. But that whole story, it shows us the highs and lows of the entrepreneurial journey, that yes, we might not, feel them to the same effect, but we have the equivalent in our lives. We have things that are thrown at us. We have things that we deal with that most other people don't deal with. And every single one of these people on this list dealt with that. They all dealt with it. They're all entrepreneurs. They're all successful. Now, you might not be the person who has a massive podcast following. You might not be the greatest of all time. You might not have, big, massive yellow and blue stores in every single country in the whole wide world. You might not have sold your business for $1.2 billion, but you have the dreams that these people have. You have the resources that people had when they were at your stage. You have the passion and the love and the entrepreneurial spirit that Willy Wonka showed us so beautifully in his film. You have that already, and you're at a stage in the game on the path to success. All these people did everything that we're going to be talking about today within our life audit as well. Okay, so what we got here. So going back to the whole Hacktice thing, I want to just reiterate the whole thing about Hacktices. What we want to do is make life easy for us now. We want to sit in our comfort zone. It's not always about going outside of your comfort zone, because you spend your whole time outside your comfort zone. You're actually physically, from a chemical point of view, you're actually putting your body under a lot of stress, and it's damaging your body if you're constantly under stress, and that, constantly damaging your energy levels. And that's why burnout occurs, because we spend most of our time outside the comfort zone, which is basically what we're being told that we should be doing as entrepreneurs. The thing is, we've spent a long time. I mean, I'm 50 now. I spent the last 50 years learning new things, meeting new people, having new experiences, paying for different things, courses, tech, all these different things that I've had, making things a lot easier. I've spent a lot of time doing that. I've got degrees coming out of my ears. I've got all sorts of things behind me, but I don't acknowledge the fact, and I don't utilize it enough. And those things that I already have are stuff that I'm familiar with. When I talk about the comfort zone, it's the familiar. It might not be the familiar to the degree that I want it to be, but things like marketing, I have a marketing degree. It was from a long time ago, but what could I use from that marketing degree that would help me now? And there's so many things, if I revisit it, it's like, oh yeah, I remember that. I remember that. Oh, how can I use that? And you start to become more creative. So there's lots of things like that. And things like technology. You know, I want to do a podcast. Right. Do I need, a proper video camera? And do I need the best this and the best lighting? And yes, you probably could do with that if you were perfectionist and you wanted it at this level. But just to start, you need a way to record something and somewhere to put it. And quite often we have this at our disposal, and it's usually free. I mean, if I was to start a podcast today, just to kind of test it out, not quite sure what I'm doing, what would I do? I'd get on Zoom, I'd record it, I'd download the audio, and I'd upload it onto my website or onto find a platform that's free, upload it onto that, and away I go. If you wanted to go down the Apple route, see what's the bare minimum that you have to do. You don't have to do it every single day. It takes a lot of work, maybe once a month. Maybe you want to interview people. Have a think about the people you already know. So there's lots and lots of different ways of doing it. But what you do is you do it small, easy, fun. Bring fun back into it so that you can have the motivation to build that skill. You learn the new things because you want to, not because you have to. And then when you do that and you do it bit by bit by bit by bit by bit, you can build a habit, and then you'll be able to do it all the time. And it becomes easy. And future you is going to be the person that has amazing podcasts because you started off small and you built that habit because you enjoyed doing it. Right. We're going to get to the nubbins of this. What I want to do is I have attached to this a workbook. And the workbook is for you to learn these Hacktices, and they're based on 2 truths and 2 actions. So each one of these is actually a separate Hacktice under the Life Audit banner. Each one of these, excuse me, is going to help you maximize your comfort zone. You can do it in order, you can do them individually, you can do 1 or 2 at a time, something like 15 combinations of them. Because there's 4 of them. So you could do one of each, smallest degree, or you can sit there and focus on one of them, or you could do a couple. So there's about 15 different ways of doing this, probably more, if I'm being honest. Okay, what are these 2 truths and 2 actions? Let me tell you. Here we go. Truth number 1 is you have more than you think. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be going into the workbook and we're going to be doing the actions. We're actually going to be sitting down doing it. So this is why I've created the membership, so that people like you who want to make it easy for themselves, build these kind of Hacktices in their lives to be able to get better at things and learn in a fun way, can actually do it. So we're going to do it. We're going to actually do it. I'm providing the workbooks. You can do the things, you can have a go, see what's what, come back to it and learn it that way. So number 1, you have more than you think. Truth number 2, you need less than you believe. Action number 1 is going to be plugging the gaps. Action number 2 is going to be the smallest viable version. These are all Hacktices and ways that you can actually build on your success, reduce overwhelm, reduce procrastination, and all the great things that I said earlier on. Right. It's not just me flapping my chops. I spend a hell of a lot of time in the last few years working on learning styles, energy, how practice works, how hacks works. It's something that I have a real passion for. I do have qualifications in stress management, in ACT therapy, and I read a heck of a lot. And what I've found is that there's so much science behind it, but these are 3 little things that I wanted to kind of bring up to show you, give you an illustration of where this has actually come from. So the first thing is cognitive load therapy, not therapy, cognitive load theory by a researcher called John Sweller. And what he did his research in was the way that tasks and actions and things that we learn have a certain type of load, so mental effort. So it will determine how long a task will take us, it will determine how easy it's going to be, and it will determine how dynamic it's going to be. So level of difficulty is based on the intrinsic load. So what it holds within itself. It's like learning, learning a two-line limerick, not two-line limerick, two-line saying is going to be easier than learning a three-page poem. It's going to take less time. It's going to be a lot easier. So that's the intrinsic loads. The intrinsic load is less in the two-liner than it is in the three-pager. The extrinsic load is the way that it's presented. How does it make sense in our brain? How easy is it to assimilate that information and process it? So that extrinsic load might be the difference between having something on a white background, making it easier to read, than having lots of busy things. I know I've put loads of brains on this slide, but having lots of busy things in there that makes it a little bit more distracting and that takes away our attention. And the germane load, which is how you process it. So how do you connect with other people to process things? It's the flow of the process of the mental effort that we make to actually complete a task and learn something new. Sounds like gobbledygook, not a problem. What we need to do is make sure that we make it as easy as possible. Cognitive load, the easier it is for us to do something, the more that we can store in our short-term memory and our long-term memory as well. So we were talking about short-term hacks, long-term practices. So being able to store in our short-term and our long-term memory depends on how easy we make it for ourselves to actually learn these things in the first place. Isn't that amazing? And then we've got something called resource constraints. This is something that I do when we're setting boundaries. So it's boundaries around the things that we have. So when we talk about comfort zone, we're already creating this boundary for it. And what happens is within that, we stay there, but we really make use, we really leverage, we really utilize everything that we have, and we squeeze the juice out of it. That's what I mean, squeeze the juice out of that. So resource constraints comes from a Harvard study in 2012, and they were looking at basically mother is a necessity of invention. How creative could we get? How can we think outside the box? How can we come up with new solutions? And we don't necessarily have to go into our comfort zone to do that. Sometimes we just look at things, it's kind of reinventing the wheel a little bit. There is a lot of merit in that as well. The third one, James Clear, Atomic Habits. If you haven't read his book, it is on one of my top 10 books of personal development. And I live and die by Atomic Habits. I have increased my health. I'm in the best shape of my life that I've ever been at age 50. And a lot of this is down to the Atomic Habits. Not necessarily things that you see straight away, but over time, when you start looking back at how much of an effect these atomic habits have, you will actually notice it. So atomic habits is breaking things down to the tiniest little things and doing them regularly. So it's part of the Hacktice routine is to make it smaller, make it easier, and be able to do it over time so that you get a compounding effect of the actions that you take over time. You build that momentum, you leverage that energy. And leverage just means, putting a little bit in and getting a hell of a lot more out. And that's what we want. That's the kind of abundance that we want in our lives. We're not looking for things to be hard all the time, are we? So that is a lot of where this comes from. And if you wanted to have a look into those, I would definitely start with the Atomic Habits because that's a great book. Right, I want you to get your workbook. So it looks something like this. And I want you to go to step 1. It's page 2. And in there, we're going to look at truth number 1, you have more than you think. So we're talking a lot about the comfort zone, maximizing the comfort zone. So what is in that comfort zone? We're not looking at the outside the comfort zone. We're not pushing beyond the comfort zone right now because we do a lot of that already. Perfectionists, entrepreneurs, people who are high achievers go out there and burn themselves out quite a lot. And it's not about going out there completely or coming back into the comfort zone completely. It's being able to have the flexibility of coming back to the comfort zone and then going back outside of the comfort zone as and when the situation requires you, and as and when you have that energy to do so. So what I want you to do is this. We're looking at your comfort zone. What kind of things are we looking at? We're looking at knowledge. So what knowledge do you already have? What have you learned in your life that's going to be useful to you in terms of your goals? You don't even have to think about your goals. Just what kind of knowledge have you got? What interests have you got? What do you know quite a lot about? What do you know? What would you like to know a lot about that you started on before, but it's kind of dropped off, but you'd like to revisit it? Um, what are you motivated to learn about? What kind of skills do you have? We've all got skills. Maybe they're ones that are not immediately obvious, but do you have people skills? Do you have skills with building resilience? Do you have organizing skills? Do you have entertaining skills, storytelling skills? Do you have um, ways of actually mapping things out? Do you have skills that you can actually use right now to move you forward, take that first step forward? Experience. What have you experienced in this world? Where have you been? What have you been a part of? What do you have feelings about that you've got memories attached to that you can go back there and bring back a certain type of energy that will move you forward again? What kind of experiences have you had? What have you done on your CV? What have you tried before and you know that you can actually do it? People and connections, a big one, especially in the entrepreneurial world. Now, I've only given you 3 slots for this, and this is just little starter point. To be honest, you can get each one of these and you can create a page and you can write and write and write for days. You can come back to it and start putting things into it. But people and connections is a big one for entrepreneurs because we build our businesses on our networks. They say your network is your net worth. That's the saying, isn't it? You might not know a lot of people, you might not have a lot of friends, but who is in your wider community? Who have you met in the past? Who would you like to reconnect with? Who are you going to have a little sneaky peek on Facebook or Instagram or TikTok to see how they're getting on and what they're up to? Having that point of connection, having a relationship, even though it's dropped off for quite a while, is a great starting place because it's a lot easier to connect with somebody who already knows you. You don't have to cold call them or explain to them. They already know who you are. You're not threatening to them. And then it is to go out there and find new people. So let's start with the people that you already know. Who's in your friends group? What groups are you part of? What groups would you like to be part of? Groups are great because you can slide yourself in there and develop relationships really, really easily. So what have you already got? What systems have you got? Now, by systems, a lot of people get put off because they feel like it's a really businessy word. And by systems, what I actually mean are patterns. What patterns have served you in the past? Have you done things in a certain way that have actually made a difference? So, for example, an easy one to look at is, if you've ever wanted to lose weight, and I hate talking about diets and I hate talking about losing weight, but I think in this instance, I'll give it a go. Because I find it really annoying and triggering. But it's a great example because a lot of people know about these things. So if you wanted to drop up a couple of pounds, what system has actually worked for you in the past? I'm not going to mention any kind of clubs or names or anything, but have you actually done something that was a lot easier and that you can go back and revisit it? I mean, it might be something as simple as do you use an Excel spreadsheet because you're really good at it and you have a way of doing it that means that you can get from the beginning to the end of the process and be successful? There's no breaks in the link. Do you have any business systems? So the way that you do things, the behaviors, the patterns that you have. Are you going to look at the patterns that you already have in doing something? You want to get to here. You need to do this. Do you already do that in some way? It doesn't necessarily mean it's the way that everybody else does it, but do you do it in some way, shape, or form? Write those down because those might be the key places and the key systems that actually get you to the next step, to the next step, to the next step. Right. And I'm going to talk about ideas now because let me just take this off for a second. Exit full screen. Let me stop the share. Because when it comes to ideas, I know that a lot of you are very creative. I know that you've spent a lot of time creating workbooks, creating videos, writing articles, making notes of different things that you want to come back to, and they kind of been left in the past. I call these gift wrapped cow pats. And the reason I call them gift wrapped cow pats is because they're there in the middle of a field and they are absolutely epic, but they're just little cowpats everywhere. There's lots of little ones. I'm sure that if you've had a couple of ideas, you've had a million ideas. And they're probably stuck in your computer somewhere or on your phone. I know for a fact that if I go through my Trello boards, I have got pages upon pages upon pages of ideas that I've never utilized. But I know that if I bring them together, I can create something absolutely epic. So what are those ideas? Go through your files, have a little read of the things that you've done in the past, jog your memory, put that. They're brilliant ways of actually inspiring you to create new ideas that will take you in the direction that you actually want to go. And then we've got tech. What tech have you got? So I mentioned it before about podcasting, but what do you actually really need? What tech have you actually got? Have you got a computer? Have you got a phone? Have you got a laptop? Have you got a ring light? Have you got a microphone? Maybe you haven't. Maybe there's a microphone hidden in your computer. Have you got particular software that you use? Have you got free software? Is there any software out there that you might have signed up to that you haven't gone back to, but you know that it would actually do the job for you? Have you got that? Write that down, even if it's not something that you've considered since you've left it. Maybe you want to revisit it. It might be interesting enough for you to revisit it, especially if it's a no-brainer and it's free and it doesn't take a lot of effort or energy. And the last thing is not something that we think about very often, but our environment. What have you got in terms of your environment? And that also means in terms of your schedule. You know, you feel like you might be time poor, but can you identify times where you actually feel good that you could potentially utilize somewhere else? One of the things that I found is I have a bit of dead time in the afternoons, and I wanted to fill it with something that I would find easy. For me, doing work for other people is a lot easier than coming up with new ideas. It takes a lot more energy to do that than it is to actually just crack on and do the work with the skills that I already have. So I found I actually put my client work or work that I do for other people in that space. And I swear to God, it works an absolute treat. And I wish I'd have done it years ago. But in terms of environment, that environment is a good environment for me to do that particular kind of work, or environment in your physical environment. So you know, have you got a space that you can go to that calms you, that's decluttering? Is there a coffee shop near you? Is there a space that's available in your mum's, you know, back room that's a lot tidier than yours and you can get a lot more done over there? Or have you got a place where you can you know, set up your podcast recording? Or have you got a nice space that puts you in the right frame of mind for writing? So what have you got available to you that would actually suit different tasks? So hopefully you'll got one or two or three of these. And what I want you to do over the next month is come back to these things. When you think of something, put it down in there. It might even go into more than one section. So if you can do that, you're already practicing uncovering your hidden talents and having a physical list of all the things that you can come back to. So you don't even have to remember it because it's already on there. It's a place that you can go back to for reference if you want to go back next to step 2, step 3, and step 4. And it's a reference point as well. So let's go back into my, here we go. So we'll go into the next one. Truth number 2. Okay, let's have a look at this. Am I in this one? Oh, I'm not sharing, am I? So let's have a look. Share screen, share. Here we go. 10. Right. Truth number 2, you need less than you believe. Okay, so you've filled up this big page, and there's a lot, and it can get overwhelming. But in all honesty, the things that you want to start looking for are within that. And it's about picking out the absolute golden nuggets. And the golden nuggets usually feel good, they usually feel easy, or they usually feel worth it. Quite often, if it's doesn't feel any of those things, it's not even, shouldn't even really be on your radar. It's not worth having it on your radar because one of the things that actually takes a lot of energy and cognitive load that we were talking about earlier is doing things that you really don't want to do, um, and it really drains your energy really quickly. So if there's an alternative that's a lot easier, a lot more fun, that makes you happier, makes you more inspired, you're going to grow with that. It's not going to make you shrink. It's not going to make you burn out. It's going to give you energy. And those are the things, those good golden nuggets are the ones that we're going to be looking for. And those are the things that we need. So there's less, you actually need less. You don't need all the things, you just need the best of what you're going to get out of it. So it's about that leverages, putting a little bit in and getting more out. That's what we're looking at. And I want to tell you a little story because a lot of this is about decluttering. So let's get rid of this for a minute. Let's stop the share. So I want to tell you a little story about decluttering. Okay, so I'm one of these people. I blooming love decluttering. I love organizing. I love tidying up. Blooming hate cleaning. I don't want to go into the toilet with a scrubbing brush, even though sometimes I do have to. There's dust everywhere, but everything's neat and tidy. And for me, that actually makes sense in terms of my mind and everything like that. So I love it. So when I get the opportunity to do decluttering on a big scale, I'm talking hoarder scale, I absolutely grab it with both hands. And one of these times that I did it was I had to declutter my mum's house. She had an accident. She was in a wheelchair and she was finding it difficult to move around because she had a lot of stuff in the house. She couldn't find things and it wasn't very organized. So I went in there over every weekend over a few months. And there are some really good rule of thumbs with decluttering so that you get the best out of it. And the one that I love the best, and I think it landed with my mum more than anything else, is where do you put your stuff? How do you organize and segregate your stuff so that it's more efficient? That's what we're looking for. Decluttering is to create efficiency. And so when you're deciding what you're going to do with something, you either you put it in one of three places. You put it in a functional container, which is where a place you would put it to get to it easily if you use it a lot. So the things that you use a lot, you put in a functional space. In my mum's bedroom, this was like a wardrobe. She's got tons of wardrobes. So the wardrobes at the back that were harder to get to, we were going to put something else. But the wardrobes that were right in front of her, we were going to put her functional stuff. So the stuff that she used a lot. So when she goes in that wardrobe, chances are most of those clothes are the things that she wears on a day-to-day basis. So that's where she put the functional stuff. Then there's the storage stuff. So the stuff that you want to keep hold of that you maybe want to revisit every once and again. So it might be where you put your winter wardrobe in the summertime, wardrobe in the wintertime. Or it might be where you put your your sentimental items, or where you have those things that you don't use very often, but you know for a fact that there's going to be occasions where you use them. So you have them there. And then the last one is in the bin. It's let it go. It serves no purpose. You're never going to use it. You haven't used it for a very long time. And you don't actually need it or want it. And so a lot of people do still hold on to those things and they put them in the storage area or the functional area, and they make a big old mess. And that's how hoarding comes about. They find it difficult to let go. So letting go is part of this process. And I think when you're talking about truth number two, you need less than you believe. It's about making sure that you separate the things that you have and that you use a lot of, that are really good, tried and tested, working. Have that at the forefront. Have those as the things that you tend to spend your time and energy and effort and money on. If it's the stuff that you use once in a while, maybe think about it first before you start spending time and money and energy on it. It's still a great place to go to. That's the place that we're looking at, the things that we don't use very often, but maybe we can bring them out of retirement. and use them as well. It might be that what you've got in your functional wardrobe is not necessarily what you actually need. You might be going, your project might be to go to an award, but your functional wardrobe isn't the place to go to, so you'll have to go to your storage wardrobe. And then making sure that you just literally get rid of the things that you don't need. So in that big massive list that's in your comfort zone, there might be some things that you have no use for. Maybe you've just been holding on to them because you paid a lot of money for it. Maybe that course on something that you know you're never going to use, it's probably out of date. You paid a lot of money, but you want to keep hold of it because you paid a lot of money and it's worth something to you. Maybe it's time to let that go, because as soon as you let that go, it's not going to be in here anymore. You're just going to have what you need, and you're going to be so much clearer about what you actually need. Right, so that's truth number two. And the way that you come back to that is always thinking of it in terms of, is this a golden nugget? Is this something that I'll use all the time? What can I revisit so that I can start using it for maybe something different, maybe for learning something new? Right, I hope that was clear. We're going to share screen again. Okay, here we go. What have we got next? Okay, so that was just in your sheet. It's what energizes me, what drains me. So it's about that segregation, separating and then letting it go. All right. In your books, right, I'm going to give you the new version. Okay, so in your books, you've now got plug the gaps or fill the gaps. So sometimes we go through all our stuff, but there's certain things that we still need, that we feel that we need. And this is where we make better decisions about where we put our time, our money, and our focus, because it's precious to us. You know, we are time strapped because we have big responsibilities and we have lots of hats to wear and we have lots of jobs. We are money strapped because, you know, we might not now, right at this minute, have a big, massive company where the turnover is absolutely regular, like clockwork, and we know what we're dealing with. Maybe we're still building that side of things. Maybe we haven't scaled up yet. I'm guessing that if I'm speaking to you here, you're at that stage where you are building your business. So money that might not necessarily be tight, but be very, very intentional about where you put that money. And in terms of focus, if you have physical energy to do something, put it on the things that are going to give you the most bang for your buck. So I like to talk about investments and leverage. And I know I've mentioned the words already. When we talk about investment, quite often we think about investing money. So what is your biggest investment? And it's not just money, it's time and focus. So if you've got no money and you've got no time, you've got to be very intentional about the physical energy that you have. If you've got no time, no money, and no physical energy, then the chances are you are at burnout point, and you just need a hell of a lot of rest and recuperation time. So it's that recuperation rather than the rest. If you've got a lot of time, but you haven't got any money and you struggle to focus, then maybe using that time wisely to do things like these Hacktices, to see where, you know, or to do audits and see what you actually have at your disposal might give you a little bit of motivation and a bit of energy to move forward as well. So that's what we're looking at. So what are you going to spend your money, your time, and your effort on? Now, I don't know about you, but I speak to a heck of a lot of people who love learning, excuse me, love learning, and love connecting with people. I love spending money on courses, or rather, they spend a lot of money on courses. It makes them really uncomfortable, but they feel that they need it to grow and learn. And personally, I have invested a lot of money in my own personal development over the last 20 odd years, and we're talking thousands, thousands, thousands. Don't regret a single minute of it. But I think going forward, there's a lot of things that I do want to do, and getting clear on that and making sure that the investment that I make in terms of money is going to give me the output that I want. Am I motivated to do it? So how many times have you bought a course thinking, yes, I'm going to do this. This is exactly what I need. You spend your money and then your time poor and it goes by the wayside. It's really difficult to get back to it. But you still got that in your arsenal. You still got things that you can go back to and revisit. You know, dig out your old password, get back on that course, and instead of buying a brand new one of the exact same thing, use that and then use the money that you would have spent on it on something else. So, what is good leverage? what do we need to think about? Well, first of all, does it make you happy? That's a big one. Is it fun? Because happiness and fun are two business values that I actually promote a lot. And the reason for it is because having fun in your business and being happy in your business allows you to do things easier. It makes you more motivated. It energizes you. It makes you put out a completely different version of yourself in the world. And if you're a perfectionist and you're putting a really good version of yourself out in the world because you're happy and you're energized and you're having fun, then why wouldn't you do that? That to me is a great leverage, especially when you're going into new stuff. So if you're going to learn new stuff or you're going to spend money on new stuff, make sure that it's something that's exciting and happy and is going to bring a lot of value to you. And also, I want you to think about everything else that you have. Everything else that you have. Um, can you not use something from there anyway? So what we're going to be doing, we're going to be filling the gaps. Okay, so we want to see what is missing. You've done your life audit, you know what you've got, you've kind of got an idea of what you can get rid of, what you've got left to use. So you kind of like just stripping everything back. But you're not moving forward yet. So what is that one thing that you want to move forward with? Is it, I don't know, do you want to write your book, but you don't have the right tech for it? You haven't got anything in where you could actually start writing your book. I beg to differ, but okay. Maybe you want to do, maybe you've written your book, maybe you want to design your book. So maybe you want to design your book, you want to be able to design. You don't know how to design, that's stopping you. So there's lots of different options there. You can either get the tech and learn, so you put your time, less money, more time, more focus, or you actually pay for somebody to do it for you. And there is a downside to that, and I'll come to that in a minute. And then you think about even smaller, what is this one small thing I can do to start bridging that gap? Have I got the money for it? What can I afford to buy now, which will get me started with that? Or is there somebody there who could help you? You know, can you ask for help? Who or what can help you? So I want you to start thinking about between where you are now and where you want to be, what is the one big thing that is holding you back? One thing, yeah, as Lisa Bean says, straight line through. And what is the small thing that you can start to do? And what have you got already? So we're kind of dialing it back to looking at what you've written in your life audit. And it might not necessarily be what you thought it was. So making it smaller means that you can actually take that step forward. And that's the thing that I want to come to next. Okay. Smallest viable version. We've heard of smallest viable action. If you've done anything around atomic habits, quite often it's smallest viable action. What is the action that you're going to take that will actually give you a good outcome? So the smallest viable version is about taking your dreams, your big goals and your big dreams, and then bringing it down into a version that will still give you an outcome, a starting point. So it's a start. It's like a mini, almost like a mini goal. Can you do that and then scale up and scale up? The Ingvar Kamprad, I can never remember his name. Mr. IKEA. That was basically what he did. What could he do? What was the smallest viable version? I'm sure that when he first started, he didn't actually think that he was going to have, these big massive superstores all over the world, but he had some version of that. He did have a reason for doing things. He did have a purpose and he did have a vision, because he wouldn't have been moving in that direction if he didn't. But when his smallest viable was, what can I utilize now? What have I got available to me that will allow me to do a version of that? So a version of that is selling stuff to people, making money and solving problems for people in a very efficient manner, furniture and stuff like that. What would that be? So it'd be, I've got pens, I've got picture frames. And the next thing he did was he made flat pack furniture, because he had furniture that people were buying from him, but he turned it into flat pack furniture because he noticed that one of his customers couldn't get the furniture into his car. So they unscrewed the legs of this table, and voila, the IKEA as we know it was actually born. Another example of this is I had a conversation with a business buddy recently, and we were talking about this big, massive goal. We were doing exactly this. We were talking about this big, massive goal that she had. And the first thing she said is, right, I've got this goal that I want to create this thing, this product, but I need £1,000 to go and get it because I need to pay somebody to create this product for me. And I said, that's one way of looking at it. But have you got £1,000? She says, no, I'm going to go do raise some money doing just I'm going to raise some money. I've got this plan to raise some money. I said, it's going to take you a lot of effort to raise some money to pay somebody else to do it. Absolutely valid. She could have gone off and done that, but she's not got a massive amount of time and she wants to get started with it. And she's already seeing issues with having to do it. There's a lot involved in it. So I said to her, how about um, doing it yourself? But, you know, her idea was this big, massive vision of what it could look like. But I said, well, what's the smaller version? Could it be done on a piece of paper? Is it a PDF that you can send somebody? Have you got an email list? And all of a sudden, she's already got an email list. She's already got the content for it. She might not be brilliant with design, but I know and you know that doing things in Canva is very, very quick and easy to use, and it's a very low cost option. She's not going to be spending £1,000. Plus, she's building a skill that will actually be useful to her in other projects as well. So all of a sudden, when we saved her £1,000, she's a lot more motivated to do what she potentially can and build this out on a much smaller version. But once she's done that, she can build that out. She can spend more money on it, spend more time on it, tweak it, sculpt it, however she wants to. And that's what we're going to be doing. So whatever that big goal is, let's start bringing it down into something that's more manageable, because that is your starting place. This big, massive goal is never going to be your starting place. That's the end place. And the massive gap that you've got, especially if it's a big goal, between here and there, is going to be where you're going to put the smallest goals and the smallest version of it. That's what I want to. That's what I want to get across. What is going to have the same kind of outcome, but utilizing what you've got. What is more homemade than top-notch quality professional? And letting go of that when you're a perfectionist is actually quite a hard thing to do. Sometimes the urge is just to throw more money at it, more time at it, and burn yourself out, unfortunately. So maybe, done is better than perfect. Because quite often on the other side of it, nobody really notices the perfection anyway. So on this picture, you've got, I want to be a speaker standing up in front of 1,000 people. That's scary flipping biscuits, let me tell you. But is it possible? Can you do this now? And quite frankly, these are the steps that you need to take before you jump in to this big, massive room of talking to people. It's scary biscuits and it absolutely can be done, but why not do it in a lot easier way? Why not totally stress yourself out? Why not make the mistakes in a safer space so you can sit in front of your Zoom camera and do your presentation and then send it out? You're already speaking, you're already a speaker. And then you work your way up. So it might be a presentation. It might then be a podcast where you're doing it live. It might be your own live masterclass. It might be your own little in-person coffee morning. Then it might be speaking on somebody else's stage. Then it might be the big, massive arena. We know lots of people who have gone down this road, and where they are now is not where they started. So looking at that smallest viable version. Right, so those are the four things. You have more than you think. You need less than you believe. We plug the gaps, getting rid of all the rubbish and actually looking at our golden nuggets. And we go for the smallest viable version. Those Hacktices on their own, if you're starting any kind of project, or if you're trying to make a decision, or you're trying to reduce overwhelm, picking those things out, using them, even if it's just writing something down on your list for clarity. Oh, I've got this. I remembered I've got this tech. You can write this down. Oh, I remember this person and that person. Let's write those down. And then you've got something to refer back to. Or maybe it's like, give your head a wobble. Yes, big dreams are very good, but where are we starting from? We've already looked at where we're going. Let's see where we're starting from. So doing this in everyday life is a skill that is absolutely flipping invaluable. And I'll tell you for nothing that I do all of these all the time. Um, and it's just an example of what is absolutely possible with Hacktices. Now, coming up in the next one, what we're going to be looking at is proof of awesomeness. And this is going to be on the 9th of February. And Pam's going to be helping me with this because Pam's my sidekick, my partner in crime rather than my sidekick, who's been helping me and supporting me in the Haptis Club. And she's got even more enthusiasm than I have for it. And we're going to be doing proof of awesomeness. Now, proof of awesomeness is around self-love. It's around celebrating yourself and actually getting to the point where you don't feel like an imposter all the time. You don't feel like you're less than. You don't let people take advantage of you. You stand up and stand proud, and you have the confidence to do that because you respect and love yourself enough to put yourself first. And it is a total mindset shift. But the practices that we use in proof of awesomeness are little ways of doing it that you do it every day, and over time they're so easy and they're so brilliant. And over time, you actually learn. It's almost like magic. It's like 1 minute, you feel like rubbish. And then a couple of months down the line, things that used to annoy you don't annoy you anymore because you're over it. You're absolutely over it. So that's what we're going to be looking at. And up until the 9th of February, so this offer is out there. I want to create this with founder members. I've not got we're going to be setting up the Facebook page, the membership where everybody gets access. And if you join before the next session, it's £10 a month. For as long as you stay in the club. If you leave and then you come back, the price will be going up to £25. We will be having a membership area, sessions, worksheets, challenges, bonuses, dip in and out. What I want is to create a community of accountability where we focus on the things that we can do. We focus on the little things, the easy things, the fun things. And we use these Hacktices and we inspire each other with these Hacktices, and we go out and we find more Hacktices. I don't want us to feel the struggle so much anymore. I don't want us to sit in the struggle all the time. I want us to, if we're going to put any kind of effort into anything, it's for our own good. It's to get more out of life and squeeze those pips out of life than we currently do. So that's what I want for me. That's what I want for you. And if you want to join me for more of this, it's going to be much more interactive from here on in. This was just the first workshop, the first pancake, as it were, and it's going to be a lot more interactive. So I will have popped a link in the email and you can sign up straight away and you can join me on the 9th of February. It's going to be a Sunday. Sundays are a great time to do this kind of thing. It gives you the space to actually think about things when you've not got work on top of you, if you don't work on a Sunday, which a lot of us don't. We try at least to put that boundary. So thank you very much for being here with me today. Let me stop the share. Thank you so much for being here with me today. I've actually had a real blast. I'm dead excited about launching the Haptis Club. It is something that's been in my head for a very long time, and I know that it's going to take the world by storm, hopefully. And it's going to have a real good impact on the people around me and beyond. And I hope that one of those people is you. Love you.